When Steel talks, everybody listens.
This is When Steel Talks, and we're here with Mr. Caldera Carabello, originally from Trinidad and Tobago, but having made his home here in the United States of America, in Brooklyn, New York, to be exact, since 1956, but originally a member of Casablanca Steel Orchestra in Trinidad and Tobago. And we want to touch base on your early years in Trinidad and Tobago, and of course your journeys within the steel band art form and movement since you came to the U.S. Welcome. And it's really great to have this opportunity to sit down and speak with you face to face, Mr. Carabello.
Thank you.
So let's get straight into it. Let's hear about how you first became interested in steel bands back in the early days, back in Trinidad and Tobago, and of course your time with Casablanca, etc.
Well, when I began to play the steel drums, I was quite a young man, teenager really, and most of the players were grown men. We had a couple my age and other, but my experience with Casablanca is very good in the sense that we started from the top band. Casablanca was one of the first steel bands in Trinidad, and they were sophisticated in the sense of this type of thing with steel band. And I started there as a tenor pan player. My experience was short because at that time the steel band had a notoriety of being bad. Decent people weren't allowed to be playing with them, so we had to sneak in and out, trying to do better as we go along. So we had competitions were held in San Fernando and different parts of the south, and we had to pick players and put our names on a lamppost. But in my case, I had to not put my name on a lamppost because I didn't want my parents to find I was going. So, but eventually they found out. In any event, we played in the country and for different functions, and I can't remember exactly what happened because memory is
At this point in time.
Sometimes I remember, sometimes, but I intend to go further and I intend to study it, review what I've said, and come to a more accurate time and things as we go along. Now, that was around 46 or so, 47, when Casablanca started. And we were located in East River.
In Port of Spain.
In Port of Spain, yes. East River in Port of Spain. And that was, East River was like Quarry Street, Oxford Street, that area. The band was formed on Argyle Street. And we usually form and come down Quarry Street to the main drag all the way down into town. Or Oxford Street down to town. In any event, it went along for quite some time. I played different functions, but the reason why my time with Casablanca was interrupted, there were these fighting riots, steel band fighting in Belmont, and the Belmont people was fighting with Casablanca, so they keep beating us or whatever, some of us. And one night, Boots Fillmore Davison was beaten on Observatory Street in a place, Lyo's Grill. So after our evening, he sell roti and bacon. So we decided we have to stop this and get away from it. So we decided to move the Casablanca to Syncopators. We had made an earlier attempt though before, when we were younger, to move from Casablanca, but not from the fighting, but youths trying to get away from the older fellas. Because the older fellas, they were playing the old time thing, and we were thinking more musically.
Yeah, something more attractive.
Right. And I had the opportunity to be schooled in music at the time. When I was younger, my aunt gave me music lessons, and Boots, his family was musically inclined. Everybody in his family played music. And we had two pianos. My aunt had a piano and Boots had a piano. So we communicate piano-wise with music, that's right. And then we tried to find a way out and we formed the Cross of Lorraine,
Right.
which is the center of Casablanca, Cross of Lorraine. But then the older fellas said they must have one band in that area, so that eliminated our thoughts of having to have. But then later on, after the fighting in Belmont, then we decided we were bigger than grown, and we knew some people who were stronger. Like for example, there were fellows from Bar 20. Those days with the American soldiers and sailors were in Trinidad, and there was a certain amount of carrying on that we don't want to discuss right now. But and these fellows came with us from Bar 20. A fellow by the name Milton Barrow. He's known as Ziggy Lee. We enlisted him as a grown fellow. A fellow by the name of Muggs from Invaders, and Boots Davison, Fitzroy James, Gaga we call him, Roland Paul, Fred Hackshaw, and a couple of us. We decided to form Syncopators, and that's when we began to play Syncopators. That's when the Syncopators started. Now we started down on the Crescent, which is south of Casablanca. We had a little Crescent band there, and that's where Synco started.
Okay, and this is with Daisy McLean as well. Daisy James McLean.
Well, Daisy James was a baby compared to us. I mean, we were all babies. Because we were 17, 18, but she was a little girl, and her brother played, Fitzroy James. He played.
You mentioned him just now, right?
Yes, he played with the band, and the bands were kept under Daisy's house. So she had access to all the drums, and she was doing whatever she did. We didn't know until later on. We realized that Ansel was never a pan player, but he was the oldest brother, so he took up the Casablanca, and they had to whatever going. Yeah, but as far as Syncopators, in my time, Daisy was not really involved with Syncopators. She came after and she formed a band, but Syncopators, City Syncopators was Davison and different, and I mentioned before, and we had different, and we played that time. They had steel band festivals. It was not like a professional or like Panorama, but it was different bands.
Competitions and showcases for the bands to play.
And we played different places and so on. So, and we well, I could say we played pretty good. We were organized, and we I don't know what can I say. Well, I reached a point where I composed a tune, Caldera Mambo, and it was played by Syncopators, because we had a Syncopators open a sailor band, Detroit Sailors. We had thousands of players.
Wow.
And we merged with them stars, them boys in Belmont, and
this is Carnival time.
Carnival time, yes, and a band from over under the pastorate of 13, and we played this Caldera Mambo, Carnival 1955. It was the only calypso that was played, composed by a steel band person.
Caldera Mambo,
Caldera Mambo,
1955.
And, and that's where I got my alias really from. This stuck with me. And I remember that there was Eric James, the president of a penny bank in Charlotte Street. He gave me $100. He said, put $50 in the bank and spend $50 on entertainment. But the older guys took him away and spent everything on entertainment. And then, what can I say? Well,
so what actually led to your leaving Trinidad and Tobago and coming to the United States?
Well, my aunt was a resident of America, and I grew up under her. So when she came to America, she decided I have to go with her. So I played. Yeah, I played last year, 55. And I left in 1956. I came to America. Well, I came by Argentina, a boat at the time, and I got here in the day about 11 o'clock, and by 7 o'clock I was in a barnyard practicing with Rudolph King.
Wow.
He knew Rudolph King was a fellow. He grew up down by Harp Place, which was was west of where we were. He and Kim Roy and all those guys. So he knew I was coming. So he met me and he took me to Spaniard and we prepared for a steel band competition. It was a very good experience, and I was well taken. We had Roy Sangster and Fitzroy and Courtney Proctor and Liverock and everything, and we played for a college, because at that time the colleges hired us, and we played God Bless America, and we won the competition. It was a little controversy because they felt that we shouldn't win.
Because you all were
Right,
not.
but the judges were patriots. So they so we had so we had to decide to share the money. Instead of taking a photo, we divided the money equally, and that's how we resolved that problem. And I stayed with King for a while, and we played in Carnegie Hall every weekend. And I had as a soloist, I was playing the single piano all by myself, and I had an opportunity to play at the Russian Room, a hall next door to Carnegie Hall, and I guess my name spread from there. I can't recall.
Interesting. So, talk about the first steel pan competition in New York, which was associated with the now defunct Grace shipping lines.
Well, that competition started through Horace Morenzi.
Horace Morenzi, okay.
Yes. Apparently he had a contract, and it was an agreement that the winner of that competition would be sponsored by Grace, the shipping line.
Grace shipping lines.
Right. So they had about, I think, 5 or 6 bands, I can't recall. But my band played. We had 6 players. But at that time, I was playing with 5 sticks, and we had
5 sticks.
Yes.
Okay.
The cellos, and we had competent players, because we were playing every night in little nightclubs, and from experience from Carnegie Hall. So we won that competition. Now the projected winner, as far as everyone is concerned, was Annie Norris band, the Steel Bandits. They were the Steel Bandits, and they were under Annie Norris' father,
Murray Norrell.
Murray Norrell, right. And Morenzi, in the end, we never knew what happened, because we never got the contract to go with the Grace line. But then Morenzi came up with something about a boat ride, where he wanted to have us play, and we said no, we're not going to play. But then there's a band from Harlem All Stars. They had sponsored a BO from Trinidad to play in the concert, and we beat them all. As a matter of fact, there was a confusion in the because when we finished playing, the judges stood up and began to clap. When they realized they stopped. They said, "Oh God!" So that was total chaos. And I guess
So the eventual winners of the competition.
we were the winners.
Okay.
Annie Norrell came second, and band Liverock band came third. I can't remember the players.
And the prize for that competition was what
Well,
at that time?
$500.
Okay.
It should have been more, but then there were promises made. You see, we get the prize as a little bigger, and you get the contract with the Grace.
And you guys did not get that contract? Who did the contract
Surprisingly, we never did get the contract with Grace. But in 2013, I was in Trinidad, and a friend of mine said there was this judge having some thing at the Brooklyn Library, and I went down to see who it was.
Brooklyn Library or?
In Trinidad.
Okay, in Trinidad, so we're talking about the public library then?
No, it's a national library.
Nollis.
Yes,
Okay,
right.
so not the Brooklyn Library, Nollis, the
Right.
National Library,
Right.
okay, an information service.
So
right.
I went and I met this guy. I remember what's his name? From Alaska.
Funk.
Funk.
Ray Funk.
Ray Funk. I met him there. So I told him who I was. So he said, yeah, he remembered me because while we were in New York, I can't remember the date, but he was trying to get in touch with a fellow by the name of Johnny Barracuda. And he called me. We were playing at the African Room with Johnny Barracuda.
Okay.
And he called me. I was giving him some information about it, but then something went wrong with our players and the owner of the of the African Room. With something went wrong, and they kicked us out. And then that was my last communication with Funk until
2013 in Trinidad, right?
And then I found out that Andy Norrell was dealing with Grace Airlines, with Grace shipping.
So do you think that's the contract that you guys were supposed to have?
Well, it was such a long time.
You're not sure, you don't know?
No, but I was one.
But it made you think?
I think twice.
Okay.
Yeah. But as I said, so many things happened then, it was such a long time. I didn't really pay much attention. And that was my contention as far
at that point in time.
Well, as a matter of fact, Ray Funk eliminated all blacks. Ray Funk documentary never included any blacks. Well, of course, Ellie Matt is black, so but he never addressed the infancy of the steel bag. He had a nice, meticulous program. I was so surprised. I couldn't dare interfere with it. I accepted it. I said, well, that's it. Yeah. But he mentioned Andy Norrell's father.
Okay.
And when Andy Norrell's father brought Ellie. But I remember when Ellie came up, it was a little organization, the Lancey Street, run under Kim Roy Wong.
Right.
And Jordan and all those guys came. I never take part of it because I was busy doing my thing in my band, and I was always busy. So I'm always thinking about my band rather than. So Ellie, and that was it, I guess. I don't know. And Norrell came up, and.
So the presentation that was put on in Trinidad by Mr. Funk, this was relative to history in terms of pan in New York you're talking about.
I wouldn't, well I guess you could say.
Okay, you said that it seems as if blacks were not really mentioned.
No.
So we're talking about black people in terms of pan in New York at that time?
Yes.
Okay, right.
There were many, at that time, there were many blacks in New York. They had Molly Kett. He was when I first came in 56, Molly Kett was working with a bank. And he had a job. He used to get us, see, most of us were on the street. Most of us came by sea.
Right, so your documentation as far as U.S.
Right.
residence was
Right.
not complete. Right.
So he get this job for us, doing a little part-time job, not me because I was straight.
Yeah, you came with your aunt.
Right, but all the seamen and different, them boys and all those guys. And he got jobs for us. And he was the originator of Harlem All-Stars with Pops McCarthy. Pop McCarthy was in Trinidad. He was an American citizen. And he went to Trinidad and they took his documentation, his passport and all his papers. So he was just living in Trinidad. Nobody knew. I don't know. I thought he was a Trinidad. I don't know. Until the Belmont riot, when he participated. And then they found out he was an American citizen and they deported him to America.
That's interesting. You never think of Trinidad deporting anybody.
Hey, they deported to sent to jail or we sent him back home where he belonged. But he didn't have he didn't have no document. His parents didn't have no passport. His passport was held by a fellow, a butcher. I forget his name. He got his passport anyway. So they sent Pops back, and Pops began to open Harlem All Stars.
Okay.
And and Rudolph King came.
So we have Molly Cat, we have Pops McCarthy, we have Rudolph King, and
Hold
we have
Up.
Hold Up. All right. So these are all black people who have played an integral role in the beginning of Pan in the USA.
Definitely.
And you're saying that this was not reflected in that presentation.
No.
Okay. So who else?
Oh, you see, I took it. I say, you see, he had this thing with the Navy. The Navy,
Right, yeah.
a guy involved. But I figured they begin so late in the pan movement. I figured maybe they didn't know. So I left it at that.
Well, now they know based on what you're saying.
Well, no, of course,
For those who did not know before, all right.
I can call 100 names.
Well, start. Let's put it this way: we should really have documented, or for the record, the people who have been involved.
I think that would be fair.
Yeah, that would be really good to put together at some point. So, off the top of your head, if there are any more people in addition to those that you've already mentioned that you'd like to mention now, would be good. But at some point, we should have a formal listing put together.
I'll try my endeavor best so I can do that. Of course, most of them have expired.
Have passed away, yeah. Which is why it needs to be done. Yeah.
Yes, to bring some accuracy to
The
history.
yeah, of Penn in New York, right?
You know, that's why I say you are doing a fabulous job. And I'm glad that you aboarded us as an organization which brings some kind of transparency and ethical behavior. I wish some of our public officials would follow you. It'd be good.
Okay, so in addition to those people that we've just touched on, anyone else readily comes to mind?
Yes. Milton Gabriel. There's a Patsy Haynes.
Yes.
There's a Lezama, not Carlos Lezama, not Lezama. There was some. Patsy, the Fitzroy James. I can't recall, but if you give me some chance,
we'll get that together and we'll put it online.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, talk about your experiences that led to your eventual founding of the National Council of Steel Bands.
Oh, the National Council of Steel Band idea came after I expired my playing period. It was a very excruciating, painful period because I felt that one time it was a contention. My contention, they intended to leave me out. Everything I tried to do was always contention, always a problem, you know, so I started the National Council of Steel Band when I was in Western American Day Carnival Association. It started in Albany because we were having trouble to get people from America, from Trinidad, to come to America without the correct papers and all. So I started, and we went to Albany, and through my friendliness with certain
public officials.
Yeah, and important people like I recall Bernard MacDonald, President of Restoration. He wasn't the President of Restoration at the time, but there was and different people that we had the influence. They say, well, listen, and they would do things for us. So that's why we managed to form that and get all, like for example, we were bringing people from Trinidad, 50 and 60 aliens from Trinidad. We bought Casablanca. I bought Casablanca was four times.
Okay, so you have Casablanca. You also brought
Invaders.
Exodus. Right.
I bought. One night I was sleeping.
In Tokyo as well. Exodus and Tokyo.
I brought Tokyo in.
Yeah.
Yes, Exodus. Listen, anybody come with a steel band, I sign the paper. See, I was recognized as someone who knew about, so I just utilized it and signed it. And they came in, but they never just ostracized me after that. They used me, and I never cared because I had my plans, you see. And then I began to give concerts at the Brooklyn Academy, at Lincoln Center,
Alice Tully Hall.
We had a concert, a weekly concert at Carnegie Hall for almost a year. And Adi Lugoff,
right,
he came in with us. Because I remember one time I was in distress in Chicago at the Blue Angel with King, and Adi Lugoff had his influence with me there.
Art Ludoff was he was connected with the House of Flowers.
That's
Was
when
it?
it first begun. When I came here in '56, after playing with King for a while, House of Flowers was here before us.
Okay.
Alexander and well, it was not successful. But then Miriam McKeever, she had a show, and she had three players: Sweet Rod, Alexander, and get the first name. And I replaced him as a third player with the interview at Radio City. I came with her with Ian Moshe playing in Radio City concerts. We played for 6 or 7 weeks, I think, every night. And then after that, I played with Louis Jordan for a week. But I had my own band, so I had to leave. And then after that, I came back to my band. I had my band with Gabriel. But then a bass player, Norman Keenan, a bass player, he wanted a band to play with Belafonte.
Harry Belafonte.
Harry Belafonte. So Michael Alexander got together with me, and we got and we interviewed and we got that job. We toured the country with Belafonte, America, Toronto. It was quite a good experience. And then, after that, I came back. I was in such financial difficulty, giving these concerts.
Yeah, as a promoter,
they foreclosed against my house, and I had 3 foreclosures against my house, so I had to go to sea. So I come back again, and I tried with that stuff on sea.
Talk about when Casablanca, you brought them up and they performed at the Brooklyn Academy of
Yes. I brought
Music
Casablanca 3 times.
with Anthony Prospect. Talk
Yes.
about that time.
He was a conductor.
Mhm.
Anthony Prospect was a conductor of Casablanca. And they got notoriety of playing the 1812 Overture. And that's what I got them based on that. They came here 3 times. I brought them here. Carnegie Hall. We played Lincoln Center. No, yes. Played Radio City. No. BAM. Yeah, 3 times. I brought them 3 times. I brought them one time with 50 players, 35 players, 60 players. That's remarkable in the sense of how could you bring 60 aliens in the country? Who are you? They want to know. I said, well, I didn't know. I went to the immigration man. He asked me, he said, do you believe that I'm going to bring 60 aliens in this country and they're going to go back home? I said, yes, sir. He looked at me as if I was a madman. But he signed the visa anyhow. He says, guy crazy. And they did go back.
All 60.
60 players. Of course, they bought things take for the family people.
Oh, yeah.
And then I met Mr. Hill, John Hill, the president of BWA. He gave me tickets to bring them.
What about when Tokyo came up?
Well, when Tokyo came, Tokyo was a different story. Tokyo had notoriety of being a bad band, fighting, and so the Hummingbird car service had a fellow by the name of, I forget his name. He wanted to bring a band up to give a concert, so he made an application, and he gave me the application, and I signed it. I never read it. I signed it. So they called me and said, "How you expect?" And I went and we got the 25 Tokyo players to Albany because New York was giving us trouble. So we went there from Albany and they came in. And they all went back home, surprisingly.
You've brought up at least 4 steel orchestras well known from Trinidad and Tobago to the United States for performances at places such as Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall, Brooklyn Academy of Music. You've brought up Casablanca at least 3 times. You've had Invaders twice. You've had Tokyo Steel Orchestra, Exodus Steel Orchestra. Why did you want to bring up these bands from Trinidad and Tobago to the United States? what made you go in this direction?
Well, I felt that the caliber of music being played by those bands were much higher than the scrambling little two pieces we had over here. So I wanted to bring them here so people here could see what I was trying to sell them.
An experience of a
Right.
full-sized, a fairly
Right.
large-sized
That's
steel
right.
orchestra.
And then
Yeah.
they played the 1812 Overture. People thought 1812 Overture, that's Russia's, was a big thing. And Prospect was a prominent
Musician and conductor, yeah.
and he came.
Mhm.
And a fellow of mine, Denzel, came a couple of times when Prospect was teaching in Jamaica. Yes.
So you just wanted to make sure that the American public had a chance to experience
Right,
what a
Right.
proper steel orchestra
right.
playing any type of music of the world
Right.
would sound like, as
That's-
opposed to the 1 to 2 to 3 piece
That's right.
combos that they might have been used to.
Well, the people, Satan bring people, 5, 6, 7 people. I was bringing 50 people,
Yeah,
40 people, 60 people, the difference.
quite a difference in terms of the sound, indeed. How did you decide on the orchestras? How did you decide which bands would come up at which point
Well,
in time?
actually, being a part of Casablanca,
Well,
I
okay.
had access to Casablanca more than Prospect.
Mhm.
But then when Casablanca, they went to Sweden and had some problems. And they were having problems to get visas, and they went to England, and I was trying to get the Casablanca to play with the Philharmonic. So then I decided, well, let's make a switch. And I went to play, I think about Exodus under Ainsworth Mohammed. He's the most, he's well organized.
Indeed, incredibly so.
Right.
Incredibly
Many
so.
times I say, Ainsworth, why don't you try to be the president of Trinidad? But he is Indian, so he realized the animosity and the problem, of course. He never would take that. But he's the most meticulous. Ainsworth come to my house. He stayed here. When he went to Japan, Ainsworth is my friend. Respectful fellow. And I always enjoyed, when Exodus came, they came and stay in my house because they don't want to stay in a hotel. And we eat and drank and they bought their stuff. And then I took them to I knew the owners of the factories. So I got them there to get all these discounts. So when they were going back to Trinidad, the guy said, well, what is people go? The guy said, listen, I can't. He said, let them through. Bags and bags. Everybody 6, 7 bags.
Wow. Okay. And Invaders, how did that one come together?
Well, Invaders came. Well, Prospect was in Invaders also. Yeah. Invaders was a different. Invaders was no problem with Invaders because Invaders people, they were working people, upper middle class. So I had no problem with the visas. They get their own visas, they come and yeah. Invaders no problem. But Invaders couldn't meet the capacity of music Casablanca could play. But they played highly, they played good, but
The repertoire.
no, it's different.
Okay.
And the Trevor Cooper was the coordinator. He did good. And there are other people. And Professor Sanders. Yes. And there was a police.
Mervyn Teach Saunders.
You used to know Sanders, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had his daughters. And there was a police fellow George. He had everybody under construct. He had them well kept. Of course, fellas came to say, listen, they want to get extension to go. George said, nobody gets an extension. When the time comes to go, you're going.
Talk about the times when you interacted with bands already established or groups already trained in playing pan here. For instance, you mentioned Oberlin at some point.
Well, yes.
Was it Oberlin College as we know it today? It's the same Oberlin College?
Well, actually, we were the first to deal with the whites. You see, there was the steel band man always want to ostracize the women. They don't want the women to see. That's why the women every time a woman, she bring all her women friends. So we brought this white girl. She was from, I can't remember. She wasn't from Oakland. The other car. Anyhow, she came and she told me what they were doing, and I kept in touch with her, and I gave her a plaque, and I brought her here. She played with sonatas, and she wrote me, and she have letters. I think I showed her when she was playing in Chicago, and then she Oberlin, I met Oberlin. Then Carl Chase was a Caucasian tuner.
Maine.
You know him?
From Maine, yes. Carl Chase of Maine.
You know Carl Chase?
Yes.
Well, Carl
Flash
Chase.
in the pants, yeah.
Carl Chase was a very good man. His son took over, but there was a little of. See, Carl Chase and I had a problem. You see, I gave a steel band concert for young people at Lincoln Center, and Carl Chase came, but I had this guy. His name was. He had a. You see, there was a place in the Bronx where all the high-class people, when they had children who were not properly organized, they keep them, and they had a steel band there. I forget the name, and it was I know people couldn't get it. I got in there with it, and he brought this band. When the band Sonatas, the young people from Sonatas get together with these young people from Mount Vernon. They get together, and when time to go home, we couldn't find them. Because we had the Lincoln Center people, the guards, everybody look, and when I look on the bus, someone took the bus, and they came to Brooklyn with the Brooklyn. So I didn't have a chance to really deal with Carl Chase as I wanted to.
Okay.
And he took offense to it, and one thing led to another. You know, but and then his son took it over, but he was a good guy. And this girl, she went to Oberlin, and then Oberlin College came in, and then at one time, I brought 25 girls from Oberlin College, and this congressman daughters, and they came to play in a concert for me in Brooklyn. But they sent the CIA, because congressman daughters.
So you would have to have a security detail.
I didn't realize a guy was in a drive. He drove down, and it looked like ordinary people. But then after, when I realized the Trinidad police, the New York police began to try to bully them around. Then these guys walk up, and then I realized how important they were. Then the police called, and then they sent for a guy, in a white uniform. He said, "Okay, leave it alone," and they left us alone. I have a picture of the pictures.
Right.
As we go along, I'll go picture, and yes. And then we get together with Gage.
Gage Averill.
Gage Averill, he came after, and we're going to get all these white people. The guys, the steel band guys here, they accepted the girls, but they resented it because they claim I'm trying to bring the whites in to take over the steel band, and I had a problem with that too. I had a problem, you know, to give them a lot of problems.
So they felt threatened by Americans who showed an interest in the steel band art form.
Yes.
Okay.
But these people were organized. They had sponsorship.
They definitely are organized because
Yeah.
we have so many steel orchestras from so many of the high schools, so many of the elementaries, the junior highs,
Right.
and of course also the university level, all throughout the United States of America.
That's what I was trying
Yeah,
to from the very infancy of the.
You were trying to get them to understand
I
that this
tried
is the way
to
that
bring the
pan was,
school.
yeah.
I wanted the school to teach, but they fought me tooth and nail. They just eliminated me. They had me so frustrated one time. I said, I'd never talk to a steel band man again. They aggravate me. But I had Bernard McDonald and all these guys. They keep saying, come on, man, forget about it. Restoration came big, and they moved all the people from over there and put them in Starrick City. All the blacks, they moved them from there and promised to bring them back. Sheffield, that's when I get to antagonize some of the big guys, and they begin to cut me down. So I was getting too powerful and I decided to work again. stop sponsoring me and stuff. Yeah.
What, based on your observations and your experiences since you came to the United States of America in relation to the struggles of steel band at that point, and looking at what is happening today, 2014, Brooklyn, New York, what are your thoughts on what you have seen in your journey and your struggles in pan since you came here, and to what you know is being experienced by steel orchestras today in Brooklyn? What are your thoughts on that?
I'll put myself at risk to say this, but I believe that the steel band movement has regressed. When we started, we played in suits and ties. We played decently attired. We had we had little fights, but organizing and talking. The steel band men now, they go and put a t-shirt and their pants hanging out, and everybody to talk about a steel band now, he involves himself as as though he started it. We never had that. We work as a group, trying to organize to go one step forward at a time. The steel band men today, I don't deal with them too much, except for King. One King, not Trevor, Earl King. He and his wife. There's Tony from Metro. His father, I dealt with his father, he was a young guy, and a couple of them. This one have a union, this one, I don't deal with them, because we don't seem to understand what's going on.
So you think that some of the gains that were made in the 50s, or actually from the 60s and the 70s and 80s, when the orchestras were coming up from Trinidad and Tobago to the United States of America, you think that things have regressed since then?
Do we have any band from Trinidad coming here?
No.
Do we have a steel band school from here?
And you no longer have as many orchestras performing at Brooklyn Academy of Music or Alice Tully Hall, Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall.
Panorama.
Yeah.
I started Panorama with Western American Association. Through Carlos Cesar. You see,
we're talking about WIADCA, right? West Indian American Day Carnival Association.
Right. I started with Carlos. You see, there's a saying that Carlos Cesar brought Labor Day to Brooklyn. That's inaccurate. But he's such a tremendous person. I mean, he works so hard. We leave this little thing. We don't fight this thing. But Rufus Gorin was the first man who brought. Rufus Gorin and his wife. My wife was only 20 years old. I don't know why she meets me at 20 years old. And we had his daughter working and sewing. Rufus Gordon he wasn't an executive, but he was a mass. And Paulie Phillips was his main man. So we bought a fellow by Simon. But these guys were just zigzag fellows. So we brought Lezama in. And Lezama was more, he was more organized, and he took it to the extent that it is today. But I always try to remind them that it wasn't, you could say Carlos and him.
Carlos and Rufus.
Yes. And Paulie Phillips. We have the first permit we get for Labor Day at a police station on Washington Avenue. Washington Avenue police station. And I remember when Rufus going aboard the carnival, it was on Fulton Street. A fellow named Archie was there too. Oh, Archie Paris from when he first too, Archie Paris. Yeah. And it started from there. When I started Panorama, we had about 4 or 5 bands. Sonata was always there. It wasn't Moods then, it was Tropicans.
Mm-hmm.
It was Brooklyners and the Harlem All Stars and someone else, I can't remember, 4 or 5 bands. And we struggled from there on.
And these were the first participants in what is
In
today's
Panorama.
Brooklyn Panorama.
Right.
Always at the back of the Brooklyn Museum.
Always.
So it's still there 47 years later, is it? Quite a
But
few
it's
years.
not, no, they,
Yeah.
the thing with 20,000, listen, I had 16 bands one time. 16 bands participated in Panorama I gave. But then I was more concentrated on the higher level. I wasn't thinking about, I was thinking about the concert level and
Right.
antagonize something, so, and it frustrated me and I had to move away. Sometimes the music is in me. I go to Trinidad and play Panorama. I went to Trinidad in a music festival in the 90s, playing 4 sticks. Yeah. I'll show you that too.
You say that you started the Panorama in New York.
Yes.
Why did you decide to go through that undertaking?
Because we wanted to be parallel to Trinidad.
Okay.
The standard, as a matter of fact, the lights they use in Trinidad, I was instrumental in that. Because when I came to this country, they had the green light, the amber lights, and the red light.
Mm-hmm.
Trinidad only had stop signs. So George Yates came, and I went, I brought the electrician to run the lighting. I said, we will play amber to set up, green to play, and red to stop. And George Yates took it on in Trinidad. And they use that now. That's right.
The parade that we know it today on Eastern Parkway, originally this occurred in Harlem.
Harlem.
Right, and then
The
Came to
last
Bro-
year,
Mhm.
the last year it came to Harlem was the year when they beat every Western Harlem. Something happened, the Labor Day in Harlem, somebody was, with the monkey police, was coming right up in your face. And a guy hit the police with a bottle or something like that. And the police began to beat every Western in the city. Every black you see, anyway, they beat. But we were in that parade. My band was under the Moderners. But I had kids, 18, 15, 17 in the band. We played Mr. Lee. So the American kids begin to dance with Mr. Lee. So when the police see us, you see all the Americans, he couldn't start, he stopped, and you let them through. That's how we managed to get through. We played Mr. Lee. You know Mr. Lee?
and the next year they were in Brooklyn.
Next year, Rufus Gordon brought us to Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And my band played. One band.
One steel orchestra.
One orchestra. And a band from Canada came down. A small band.
Mm-hmm. So Morganeers played. Morganeers played, right? And then how soon after that you decided we should have a Panorama in Brooklyn, New York that paralleled or attempted to parallel?
I can't
that of
remember
Trinidad?
that because there were small bands playing little gigs.
Mhm.
I can't remember. I'll
Okay.
check and see. I'll tell you. I'll give you
Okay.
the date when I decided for Panorama. We were trying to follow the standard of Trinidad at the time.
Mhm.
When I introduced Panorama. Yeah. And we had 5 bands. We had some problem. They didn't want to show up on time. There were a lot of problems with Panorama.
All right. Talk about the beginning of what at that time in 1998 was put forward as Pan Trinbago's representation in the U.S. when you were the chairman of that inaugural organization. Talk about
Well,
that. The
all
event
right.
was held at the United Nations, etc.
Well, you see, I was always fighting. Well, that's when my trouble began. I thought it was too big. I began to fight the big people. I had some friends who sat and drink liquor and talk. I figured I thought to help me, but they didn't help me. I began to fight against the Daily News, and because they were bringing bands from Trinidad and giving free concerts. Now they were getting money sponsorship. So this bank, Trinidad wasn't being paid. They come up here, and I feel they're taking the money from us because we could get that sponsorship. And I used to picket. I won't switch my leaflet. They can say, well, come say thank you again and bring their spurs and bring them in tuxedos and all that. Yeah, and that's when my problem really began. Really, yeah, I began to fight them, and then when this Arnhem Smith sent up Diaz, next fellow, I forget his name. I remember his name. He came up to investigate who was the man doing this.
Keith Diaz.
Keith Diaz.
Keith, okay.
He's the president now.
The current president now, but we're talking back in the 80s.
Yeah, Arnold Smith sent him to investigate me, to see what I was doing. And when he came, he saw me. We hit off right away because he was like me. I was picketing against the Daily News, and I'll show some of the sign. I said they're victimizing us.
You were picketing outside the Daily News, and your issues exactly were what? That the Daily News was bringing up exploitation of the Trinidad and Tobago Steel Orchestras coming up here. They came up, they performed. Daily News, they were getting sponsors to bring the band up.
Well, they give them tickets,
okay,
and a place to stay and eat.
But in terms of being paid as musicians, that was not happening. No, okay. No. And so that was the exploitation, and that was the reason for your picketing.
Right.
Okay, right, go ahead.
So when Arnold Smith came up, Arnold Smith sent Diaz and this, to see what, they began to see what I was doing. Then they had an election. He said, well, listen, we're going to have an election. First time somebody to represent Trinidad in America, because America was the place for them. And they had an election, and the Consul General, he had in mind QT. And they had a election and run against me. I got 11 votes, QT got 2 votes. So I became the chairman of Trinidad.
In the U.S.?
In the U.S.
Okay.
Then they decided to run the inauguration. The Consul General, he was a little disappointed because he wanted to run it in the Robinson Hall somewhere. I said, no, if I'm only part of it, have to be in the United Nations, because I had a black fellow in there as the president. I said, and they said, no, we can't do it. And a Jamaican fellow come to me one day, he said, listen, you see, I know nothing about pan. The only pan I was pissing in Trinidad, in Jamaica, in Eurasian and pan, but I like his style. And he got me into the UN. And I had Miss World, I had Ken Gordon, I had everybody, Washington, Panam, Blake, but we had 7 tables on the forum. I couldn't put all these people, I didn't know who to, so I decided to put Miss World. I eliminated the Consul General. I said, you one of us. He took offense to it.
So what was the function of the U.S. arm of Trinidad at that point, and how long did it last?
Approximately 6 months.
Okay.
Because, you see, they begin to say they want to have a Trinidad flag in the I said, this was, when Arnold started, he wanted a continuation of it, and to start something new, and QT and all those guys, and they moved me. I didn't care because...
Did they achieve anything while they were, while the organization was active during that 6 months?
Well, yes, because I was speaking to the Ford Foundation at the time, the Peace Corps, the Peace Corps. When the Russian Peace Corps in New York, I knew the lady, I was speaking to her, and we had a non-profit organization. I mean, I was speaking different, but I was speaking to all these people, but I was keeping myself, my back was wide open. I was so concentrated on a higher level. So they move me and they bring and they remove me. But not.
Okay. All right.
As a matter of fact, my band, Reka, played for the Peace Corps, the inauguration of the Peace Corps
Mhm.
in Harlem, in, Ju- in, Ju- in, Ju- Ju- Grant's Tomb.
Okay.
But we weren't straight. They wanted to give us a job, but some of us were straight, we couldn't go.
In terms of paperwork, right?
Right. And they invited me to the 50th anniversary in Africa a couple of years ago. That's when my position began in Hamburg.
That's when what?
That's when my little opposition began with Western America. And they moved from the board.
WIACO you're speaking about?
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Western American Carnival Association. The carnival and the parade doesn't work together.
Well, you know, we've had a whole lot of information from you. It's been a really great opportunity to be able to sit down with you, Mr. Carabello, because there's so much history that is being rewritten and revised even while people are still around. So it's really, really good to have your recollections, such as it is right now, about your beginnings with Casablanca in Trinidad and Tobago, your experiences since you've been in the United States of America, your role, and of course what other people have been putting forward in terms of that. So we want to say thank you very, very, very much for taking time out with Wednesday
The
Talks.
pleasure is mine.
This is Wednesday Talks, and while we were visiting Mr. Carabello, his sister, Miss Althea Durant, happened to drop in, and she's essentially going to be talking about her recollection of their times as children or as teenagers growing up, and how she used to look out for him in terms of, you know, when pan was indeed an issue, a social issue, and you had to hide from your parents. So we have an impromptu visit from Miss Althea Durant. Mr. Carabello is still with us, and we are really, really happy to hear a whole lot more about how it was back in the day. So, you know, Miss Althea, welcome. Thank you for being here in the Wednesday Talks. You've got your brother.
Yes.
And talk to us, we were
Talk
hearing a
about
little
it.
bit about, you know, how you'd be looking out for him when he was
Well,
playing
when he
pan.
first started playing
Yeah.
pan, he didn't want my mother to know, because in those days when you beat pan, you considered somebody wayward, you know. They didn't like the idea. So when he practicing, he used to let me go to the front of the house. The house.
Used to be the lookout.
So as a lookout, I just stand there. Sometimes for hours. I'm tired. I want to go inside. I can't go in because I'm waiting to see my mother turn the corner. And as Ma turned the corner, I started to sing. When he said, that, and he heard the singing, he knows to hide the pan.
So,
And
and you know, what did you do? I mean, in terms of, you know, Miss Althea is doing all this for you. You know, what did you do for her in return?
what did he do for me?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Uh-huh.
When I wanted to go out, remember we used to say we going out together because my mother didn't allow me to go out by myself. And he know very well somewhere else I going to make an agreement at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever time. I'll be at this corner, you better be at the corner too. He go on one way, I go on another way. Party, enjoy myself, and I wait at that corner. So I never wait long before him. I'm tired, but I'm not going inside. Because and if I make a mistake and Ma lock me out, my mother say, if she ain't reaching my house, I lock him out, he waiting for me and he let me in. I mean, I let him in and crawl in and go under the bed, remember? And when Ma fired out, my mother with a stick shook it under the bed to get me out. And I want to beat him now because she knows he let me in.
Oh my. So, Miss Althea, what were your thoughts on pan at that time? I mean,
I always liked it.
okay, did you ever play by chance? Or did you ever
No, I try a little thing, but not really, you know.
Okay.
My son played.
Oh, yes.
My son.
I have a son that played. Huh?
The gramophone.
Lovely.
Memories are coming to the fore here. Laughter. Okay, let's hear about the gramophone.
Which one of them?
He had a gramophone under the house.
Under the
that he
house.
used to pick the tunes from. Play
Yes,
the gramophone
under
and
the
then
house.
pick the tunes on the pan.
Yeah, he had it under the house hiding. And I used to be always a lookout. Always a lookout.
So, You know, I mean, you're just smiling, Mr. Carabello. What?
I forget.
Uh-huh. Now that Miss Althea has, you know, said how she played a main part in you even being able to, you know, play at that age. You know, what are your thoughts on that? What are your memories?
But actually, I was always inclined to be a soloist, you know. So I always like soloing. So we had a gramophone, and when I copy whatever play, I practice it. And I went down to Point Commander, where they had, well, this is a different type of white. Trinidad whites now. They had all these dance groups and different, and they were touring them, and they had a competition and different things. But they never wanted too many of us, you know. But I was little light skin, so they didn't have a chance. When I bring my other friends now, they say, nah, boy, we want you to buy black friend.
Yes.
It's true. Yeah, well, those were the days.
And then we had that tune, the Caldera Mambo.
Caldera
Oh, yeah,
Carabello
yeah.
in 1955 you were telling us
Yes.
about. Mhm.
Oh, when that came out, oh boy. If you see me in the front.
So it was a hit then.
What?
Yes.
Oh,
Was you only
boy.
pan through the play?
The only pan tune that played. I came out waving a flag.
You ever heard it?
No, I have not heard it.
I got a copy of it.